Am I the a-hole stories? Am I the a-hole for telling my son's birth mother that she can't have my son back after giving him up? My son is 5 and I have had him since he was born. His bio mom is 24 and recently graduated college. He has had regular contact with her his whole life, but I've encouraged him to think of her as a cousin or friend. For the past few months, she's been acting differently around him and encouraging him to call her mom. Now that she's able to support herself, she wants to have him for a few nights a week. I told her no, because I'm his mom and she would put him in daycare during the day and only be with him at night. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and am with him all the time. She said it's cruel of me to keep her away from her son. I said that if she loved him so much, then she shouldn't have given him up 5 years ago. She said that she gave him up because she wasn't able to support herself, and now that she is, she wants him back. I said that you don't get to abandon your child then decide that you want him 5 years later, and that he considers me his mother. She said that he will start thinking of her as mom if he has time to bond. I said that if she continues trying to steal him from me, then I will stop letting her meet him. My husband says I'm being paranoid and there's no way she can get him back now. Am I the a-hole? Edit, we are his legal parents. She is related to us as she's my husband's second cousin. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Cut this woman off now. She has made her intentions to undermine you and usurp your role as mother quite plain, and you have no reason to comply. Cut this woman off now. 100%. OP, your husband is wrong. She may legally have no leg to stand on, but she can do an awful lot of damage to your relationship with your son. Defo not the a-hole if you cut her off. And there are so many stories of family kidnapping a child back. I think this mom should also go to the school and let them know the situation. It's better to be prepared, and make sure they know this woman will not be picking up her child. Not the a-hole. Yes, it's great that she's doing better and done well for herself, and it's also good that you have an open adoption in which her presence never been denied. But she adopted him out, she is no longer his legal mother, and you've raised him and are doing a fantastic job. And she can't come back into his life, after 5 years and say he's mine now. However, you really need to lawyer up, and speak to whoever arranged the adoption, because she could try to make life difficult for you, and it does sound like she needs therapy for your son's sake, as well as her own. Because he's 5 and doesn't need to even be thinking of this right now. It's almost like her plan was to rent the kid out or put him on layaway until she was ready to care for him. Cut her off completely. Not the a-hole. You're the a-hole, for allowing this woman to remain in your son's life after she essentially threatened to take him from you. I do not mean this to be callous or cruel, but if you entertain any thought of keeping this woman, already taking steps to steal your child from you, to remain in his life and yours, you are an a-hole. Please put an end to her manipulations now before it is too late. Wow. Harsh but absolutely true. I hadn't thought of it this way. OP is potentially allowing her son, and he is most definitely her son, to be in contact with someone who wants to kidnap him. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for never telling my mom I've been talking to my brother? I, 17 male, have been talking to my brother for years without my parents knowing. Jess, my older brother, took off the night before his 18th birthday 3 years ago. He just basically left a note telling them he's never gonna see them again and done with our family. I know it sounds dramatic, but our family really does suck. My dad's a huge butthole, and because Jess wasn't his real son, my mom had Jess before she met my dad, he was always a bully to Jess. He treats me like crap, but man, he was way worse on my brother. My dad's mostly verbal, but you feel it when he talks crap and yells. Even when you're not doing anything, he'll look for whatever reason to get in your face. My mom doesn't do anything about it except tell us not to make my dad mad. She used to have fights with Jess a lot because she wouldn't do anything to defend us. They didn't know where he went, and I didn't for a while until he started coming to see me after school. I tell him how stuff is at home and we hang out. He asked me not to tell them we talk though, because then my mom would try to find out where he is or try to talk to him, and he doesn't want that. Jess said only reason he comes around is because he didn't want me to feel alone dealing with them. Jess isn't a bad person, by the way. Like, he's been working and paying for his college on his own. Plus, he used to tutor me for my math class when we'd meet up. So yeah, we've been talking and my mom continued not knowing where he is. He promised once I'm 18 I can move in with him, so I don't have to stay stuck in that house anymore, which I can't wait for. This all came out after my mom went looking in my phone and found me talking to him on Kik. She figured out it was him and has been pissed at me for never telling them I was talking to him. She's mad that all this time she had a way to reach out, and said I was a crappy son for not telling her. My mom tried messaging him and he stopped replying. She's trying to get me to give me his info, which I don't really know. The whole family found out though, and they're saying what I did was really wrong. Because my mom spent years missing him, wanting to talk, and I knew all this time. I haven't talked to my brother yet. I'm waiting for things to calm down, but it's super tense at my house. Everyone is treating me like I deeply hurt my mom, and don't know if I was an a-hole for never telling her. Not the a-hole. You're in an abusive situation that's enabled by your mom. You don't owe her the details that would allow her to drag somebody else back into the dynamic. I hope you can get out when you're 18. Take care of yourself. Just to add to this, do not tell her of your intention to leave before you do either. I've seen it go so wrong. Like identification going missing, bank accounts cleaned out. I know in some countries you can't legally have a bank account in just your name till you're 18. You need a parent on the account. Tell them nothing. It could make your life so difficult. One kid in my school was sent to one of those church-run insane asylums to try control him, until the police got involved. Not the a-hole, and stay safe. Not the a-hole. Your mother spent 14 or more years sitting by and watching Jess be mistreated, and didn't do a goddamn thing about it except blame him for it by telling him to stop making your dad mad. Jess was absolutely right to cut all contact, and you were right to protect him. Every person involved in this who thinks you should give an abuse victim's contact information to one of their abusers is an a-hole. Only you and Jess are not. I bet the others involved don't know about the extent and length of child mistreatment that has occurred over the last 2 decades. Point that out and they may change their tune. Not the a-hole. It's your mom's choice to let it come this far. Please promise me you'll move in with your brother when you can. Your brother is an adult and he made the decision to break up with your mom. When he is up for it, he can seek contact with her, and she'll have to respect that. Been in same kind of situation. Yeah, for sure. I can't wait to get out. My birthday isn't for another 8 months, so still stuck here for a while. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter to stop crying because this wasn't about her? I have a 28-year-old daughter and a 33-year-old son. I remarried 1 year ago to my wife, 30 female, and I had told her while dating, that I was in my 60s and wasn't aiming to have more kids. For the past few weeks my wife had started acting strange and said she felt sick and tired. The other day my wife and I were visiting my daughter and her boyfriend who just got an apartment together. My wife was on edge the whole time. Finally, she blurted out that she found out that she's pregnant. She looked apprehensive, so I asked why she was treating this like bad news. She said she wasn't sure how I'd feel about the news. So I told her that it was unexpected, but that especially recently, I've come to really value children in a way that I couldn't when I was younger, and was either away from home altogether or working 13-hour days, 6 days a week. I told her that my business is very much hands-off now, and this time around I have time and resources and am so excited to devote that to our child, and that I would do everything to make our child the happiest child with the happiest family. My daughter was in the adjacent room but I didn't notice that she had walked in. She started sniffing and when I asked what's wrong, she started full-on crying. She curtly said congratulations and started walking out. I caught up with her in the hallway and she spun around and said, "Great to see that you've finally calmed down, Dad. If only it happened 25 years ago and not just because of age." I told her that I was only trying to make my wife feel better and so she didn't have to cry and yell because this wasn't about her. This was about letting an anxious woman I loved know that she and her child would want for nothing and worry about nothing. She looked furious and said, "Yeah, this is about a kid who is going to get a chill, indulgent dad and a happy mom because he got him the second time around." After that, my wife and I left because we knew we weren't welcome at the moment. Am I the a-hole for defending what I said and for telling my daughter that this really has nothing to do with her and everything to do with the baby I intend to be a great dad to? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Yes, you were just trying to make your wife feel better, but in the process, you insinuated that this child would be more loved and wanted than your daughter was, within earshot of her. I bet that stung. She wanted to talk to you about how her feelings were hurt. You should have said you were sorry, her feelings are valid, that you didn't mean to hurt her feelings and that you were just trying to make your wife feel better. Instead, you immediately dismissed her very rational feelings, when you're the one who said the very tasteless thing in your daughter's home. When someone is telling you their feelings are hurt, it's crazy mean and insensitive to tell them why they shouldn't be. And the old, Your wife is the same age as your children. It's even worse, one of his children is actually older than his wife. Like, what the actual hell? His oldest son was just turning 3 when his now wife was born. Insane. You're the a-hole. The way you made your wife feel better hurt your daughter's feelings, as it made her feel you cared more about your new wife than you ever have about her. Unfortunately, this was compounded when your reaction to her upset was to prove that your wife's happiness is more important to you than your daughter's. I am glad this time round I will be a better father. Daughter, I'm upset because you were not a good father and never acknowledged that to me. You don't matter. Your feelings are not important to me right now. What is important is my wife's feelings, because she is pregnant with a child I will actually love. That's what your daughter heard. You're the a-hole. Yikes, for so many reasons. I can see why you had to go after a woman half your age. There's so many red flags here, it's kind of scary. She's the same age as his daughter and he just told said daughter, to her face, that he clearly plans to replace her and make the perfect family. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's sister-in-law that I don't trust her with my kids? My husband's older brother is married to Louise. She's a mom of 3 ages 12, 10 and 9. And my husband and I have known her for about 3 years now. They've been married for 2. My husband and I have 2 boys. Our youngest has SPD and has many food and smell issues that have come up over the years. He's very sensitive to taste, smell and texture, and his diet is limited and he cannot be easily exposed to strong smells without either gagging or puking. We have been working on feeding therapy with him since he was 4, but it has not been the success most people expected. He still doesn't eat or try most things, but his diet is not as limited as it once was. Louise is not very understanding or good with adapting. Ever since we met her, she has made comments about how we could get him to eat more and has talked about her own picky eater. No matter how clear we were about his diagnosis, she keeps acting like that. Even suggesting to get him to eat better, we should just let him not eat until he gives in. It concerns us, so we have never let her have the boys alone. It has been a source of conflict between my husband and his brother on top of this, because she has felt pushed out, like she wasn't accepted into the family or trusted as an aunt. But the truth is, we don't trust her. She does not recognize how cruel it is to essentially starve him into compliance, and refuses to acknowledge this is what would happen. He would not give in. He would refuse to eat until he got sick. But she does not believe any child could physically do that. To me, that is scary and dangerous as a parent of a child who could very easily do something like that. Anyway, she showed up to speak to me mom to mom recently, and asked me why we didn't let her have time with the boys and take them places like a real aunt. She told me she really wanted to get to know them and had no idea why we would have an issue with it by always saying no. And how she was starting to feel like we were sending the message that we don't like her. I brought up to her everything she has said in the past, and the fact she doesn't remember those conversations, supposedly, and I told her we did not trust her with our kids given all this. She obviously didn't like hearing this, and now she and my husband's brother are saying I'm a witch and should never have said such a horrible thing to her. My husband thinks it's crazy, but I wonder if I was too harsh. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She asked, you answered. Pretty straightforward. Your child's health and safety should always come before your sister-in-law's fragile feelings. The comments in this post saying OP is not the a-hole is pretty confusing to me. If OP actually did explain her kids' health issues, then the aunt would understand pretty well, but we're only hearing one side of the story here. See the part where the aunt doesn't remember the conversations. I'm with the aunt here. OP was being petty by not letting her kids spend time with family. Not sure how a kid's sensory problem means they can't hang out with an aunt. If the aunt is offer food, it's not hard for them to say no. You're the a-hole OP, learn to be kind to your only brother-in-law's family. We did have the conversation. She thinks it's as simple as not letting him eat anything until he tries what she wants him to eat. He could say no to food, but then she wouldn't let him get an alternative, and if she's got him long enough, imagine how freaking awful that would be. Not the a-hole. My father was like your sister-in-law and thought peanut allergies were fake. Until he had to call 911. This is insane and so scary. What happened? He told me the salad dressing was ginger, when it was actually peanut butter, which he knew. He thought allergies were just for weak people. 2 bites in and I knew something was super wrong. The top of my head was itchy, I felt weirdly disoriented, and I started struggling to take a breath. He first told me to stop faking and then I started to get really red. He called 911, And they were there really fast. Administered an epi but still took me to the hospital for observation and fluid for a few hours. My mother was furious, and I had to talk her out of calling the police. Not the a-hole, she's ignoring medical advice provided by his pediatrician and therapist because she thinks she knows better with zero educational background or sources to back it up. You're absolutely right to not let her babysit alone. And that's it for this video guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day everyone.